In this video, we're working through GCSE exam questions where you have to find the mean from a table. Pause the video, have a go, and we'll go through it together step by step. Okay, so here's the first question we're going to look at. A student carried out a survey to see how many chocolate bars the 28 students in his class eat in a week. The results are shown in the table. Calculate the mean number of chocolate bars eaten in a week. Okay, so it's important to understand what's going on in a question like this. It tells you the number of chocolate bars and the frequency. The frequency is how many times it happens. So if we were writing this data out, we'd have 0 chocolate bars just once because the frequency is 1. Then we'd have 1 chocolate bar 3 times, 1, 1, 1. 2 chocolate bars 8 times, 2, 2, and you'd write it out 8 times. But that's a lot of work. So what we can do is we can add a column to our table, and that's the number of chocolate bars times the frequency. I'm just going to call it number times frequency. 0 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 8 is 16. 3 times 6 is 18. 4 times 5 is 20. 5 times 3 is 15. And 6 times 2 is 12. And then I need to add them all up. You probably know that mean is always add them all up and divide by how many there are. You just have to do a bit of work to get those numbers. So we're going to add all these up. You can use a calculator. 1 at 3, add 16, add 18, add 20, add 15, add 12, and that's 85. And you need to divide by how many students were in the class. So there were 28 students in the class. It tells me in the question here. So I'm going to do 85 divided by 28. Always write all these workings down. That way, even if you go wrong, you're going to pick up lots of marks. 85 divided by 28 is 3.0357. Don't round it too much. Mean doesn't have to be a whole number. So I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places. That's going to be 3.04. Question 2. The table shows how many cups of coffee were drunk by 50 people in an office on Friday. Calculate the mean number of cups of coffee drank on Friday. Okay. So again, you're going to do the cups of coffee times the frequency. You're always going to need to add a column. 0 times 5 is 0. Don't make the mistake of writing 5. 1 times 8 is 8. 2 times 13 is 26. 3 times 17 is 51. And 4 times 7 is 28. And then you're going to add them up to get the total. 8 plus 26 plus 51 plus 28, and there is the plus 0, but you don't need that. So that's 113. And we need to know how many we asked. So 50 people, again it's in the question. If it wasn't in the question, you find it from adding up the total of this frequency column. That's also going to give us the 50 because that's all the people asked. So it's 113 divided by 50, which is 2.26. Question 3. This one looks a little bit different because when you look at the table, you've been given a range for the values. So we're going to have to do something different. The table shows the heights of 50 students. Work out an estimate for the mean height of the students. When it says work out an estimate, it doesn't mean just guess. You still have to do this method. So first of all, we're going to find the midpoint of the height. We're going to find the midpoint because we don't actually know where the data is inside that group. We just know that 5 of them are in that first group and 8 of them are in the second group. So we're going to take the midpoint to make it an estimate because we don't know the exact numbers. So halfway between 110 and 120 is 115. If you forget where the midpoint is, you can add the two ends together and halve it. So 110 plus 120 and then divide it by 2 and you'll get 115. Then the next midpoint is 125, 135, 145 and 155. And now we need another column, and this one is midpoint times frequency. So we're not going to use the height again, we're going to use our midpoint times our frequency. So we've got 5 times 125, which is 575. You can use a calculator. 8 times 125, which is 1,000. 13 times 135, which is 1755. 17 times 145, 2465. And 7 times 155, 1085. Now you're going to add this up to find out the total. Use a calculator to do it. You should get 6,880, and you're going to divide by how many students there are. So the total of this frequency column, which we know from the question, is 50. So we've got 6,880 divided by 50, 137.6. Now, is that a sensible answer? Is the mean height 137.6 a sensible choice? Look at the different groups. Look where most of it is, so you can see it is a sensible choice. Always check your answer to see if it makes sense. Question 4. 20 students took a test. The time taken for each student to complete the test is shown below. Work out an estimate for the mean time taken to complete the test. 20 students. So where would I find this 20 if I was looking at the table? That's right, it's the total of your frequency column, 20. Now, we don't know where all the exact pieces of data are, so we're going to take the midpoint again. So between 0 and 5, the midpoint is 2.5. Between 5 and 10, it's 7.5, then 12.5, and then 17.5. Now you need another column that's frequency times midpoint. So you're going to do 1 times 2.5 is 2.5. 5 times 7.5 is 37.5. 12 times 12.5 is 150. And 2 times 17.5 is 35. And you're going to add it up. So that's 225. And we want to divide that by how many there are. And we know there were 20 students. 225 divided by 20. That's 11.25 minutes. Remember, is that a sensible answer? Look back at your groups and you can see it is. Question 5. The table shows the distance travelled to work by 60 people. Work out an estimate for the mean distance travelled to work. And B, explain why the mean distance travelled is an estimate. Okay, so we can do part A. We know we need to find the midpoint. So add a column to your table called midpoint. The midpoint between 0 and 4 is 2. Between 4 and 8 is 6. And then 10, 14, 18. Now you need another column. Frequency times midpoint. So we've got 3 times 2 is 6. 9 times 6 is 54. 12 times 10 is 120. 23 times 14 is 322. And 13 times 18 is 234. And if we add those up, we've got 736. And we need to divide by how many there were. So the total on my frequency column, and it also tells me in the question, is 60. So I've got to do 736 divided by 60, which is 12.2666. And I can round that to 12.27. So the mean distant number of miles is 12.27, and that seems like a sensible answer. Explain why the mean distance travelled is an estimate. So you have to write a sentence, and your sentence should say, I used the midpoint of each group as I don't know the exact distances, so it's an estimate.